For hundreds of years, First Nations people suffered under a broken colonial system that gives power over their lives to a distant government in Ottawa.
And what has been the result? Communities are left in poverty, substandard housing, unsafe drinking water, and misery. It is a tragedy.
The Indian Act gives all control over reserve land to the federal government. This means that revenues from resource projects on First Nations land often go to Ottawa, forcing communities to go to the federal government to get back their tax revenue for resource projects on their land.
This puts power and control in the hands of bureaucrats, politicians, lobbyists, and not First Nations, which means more money for Ottawa and less money for you. It's time for a change.
I'm kicking off consultations with First Nations and industry on an optional new model for First Nations that they could opt into, giving them more direct fiscal revenues from resource projects on their lands.
We've listened to First Nations from coast to coast, and that's why we're supporting an optional First Nations resource charge that enables them to take back control over their resources and money.
This is a grassroots First Nations-led solution to a made in Ottawa problem. This new optional model will simplify negotiations between resource companies and First Nations. First Nations can choose the FNRC to replace or supplement impact benefit agreements as they wish. The FNRC will be strictly optional for First Nations communities and will not preclude any community from continuing to use other existing arrangements, such as impact benefit agreements.
The FNRC will respect all treaty rights and all constitutional rights, including the duty to consult. This optional plan will allow communities to keep money earned from resource projects on their land without having to go through Ottawa gatekeepers.
Communities will keep a larger share of the federal business income tax revenue so that there's no extra cost to business. It's a win-win.
Putting First Nations back in control of their money and letting them bring home the benefits of their resources will help get local buy-in for projects to go ahead.
Conservatives will also put our resources to work by cancelling Trudeau's anti-resource law, Bill C-69, and replacing it with a law that gets projects approved responsibly, safely, and quickly.
Conservatives will put control back into the hands of First Nations communities so they can bring home powerful paychecks for their people. Let's bring it home.
Let's bring it home.